Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon. A lot going on at 100 Center Street, Manhattan Criminal Court, with the case of this man here, Luigi Mangione. Hearings to decide whether the evidence that is going to be presented against Luigi Mangione in the state case by the Manhattan DA's office, what evidence stays and what evidence goes, and will all of the evidence be admitted? And that is all up to a judge. For example, even this license, Mark Rosario, we know that this surely isn't Mark Rosario you're seeing on this thumbnail. This is Luigi Mangione. And just to be in possession and use that driver's license as identification is a felony. It's criminal possession of a forged instrument that he used to check in to the hostel up on 101st Street and Amsterdam Avenue in Manhattan. And that was his base of operations. We remember some of the pictures where he had his face covered. And that was where they first realized that Luigi Mangione was in fact staying in that youth hostel. And he used that as a springboard to committing the crime that he's being charged with, the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. So all of these now are questions. These are some of the money that he had on him. You see in the thumbnail up on the screen, the money that he had on him at the time of arrest. And what we've spoken about on this show is the law of arrest and what it allows people to do. But what we're hearing a lot about, because it's being covered by the media that's just sensationalizing this and never swung a nightstick or put a set of handcuffs on anybody, there is something called a law of arrest. And it gives the police certain leeway to do certain things. And when we hear defense attorneys or the media say, there's a possibility all of this evidence could be thrown out, I think that is ridiculous. I think it's so remote. And might the judge rule that certain things may be thrown out? There's a possibility he'll throw them some breadcrumbs, but I'm not thinking that this judge is going to throw out the contents of the backpack that was in Luigi Mangione's lungible area. That's what it's called in police vernacular. Lungible area, which contained a ghost gun that was a 9mm that's very capable of killing police officers, right? So the police were not required, when they had Luigi Mangione stopped in that Altoona, PA McDonald's, they weren't required to get a search warrant to search the backpack, right? There's the McDonald's, there's Luigi Mangione there. So all of those things are being presented. And of course, the defense, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, a former Manhattan assistant district attorney, second in charge to Robert Morgenthau back in the day, and her husband, also Mr. Agnifilo, another attorney on this case, they are presenting these arguments because in my mind, and I could be wrong, I think it's a Hail Mary pass. I don't think the judge is going to throw any of this evidence out. And if he does, could that impact upon this case greatly? Absolutely. But the judge is no fool. The judge is going to use case law. He's going to use experience, and he's going to use the law to apply what he does in this case. So, folks, hold on to your hats. Hold on to your loved ones. Hold on to your thoughts. Hold on to your prayers. Hold on to your service dog. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
Joining me today on this topic, this very learned topic, legal topic, law, criminal procedure law, police, what the police can do, What are they mandated to do? When are they mandated to read Miranda? When can they search incidental to a lawful arrest? When can they inventory? All of these words are not being used by the media. The media is just saying, oh, they were not read. He was not read Miranda and they needed a search warrant. Come on, you get a little more creative than that. To join me to be a little more creative, but from the law side of it, is retired NYPD Sergeant, professor at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut, attorney of law, Professor Michael Geary. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bill, good afternoon. Thank you for having me on. This is a great case. Thank you.
You know, Mike, we have spoken about the stop, right? And we know, and I'll play a little bit later, the 911 call, which is also very important. Like, what brought the police to the McDonald's?
That's right.
Were they just walking around and said, oh, that guy looks like Luigi Mangione? No, a 911 call directed them to the Altoona, Pennsylvania McDonald's, where Luigi Mangione was sitting, wearing pretty much the same attire, but he had a mask on, and people said, that's him. They were so confident that was him. And we'll go into the officer that made the stop, and then we'll go into the legal aspects of this. But Mike, from a legal perspective, I don't think many people other than us who this is true crime from a police perspective are talking about the law of arrest and what it allows police officers to do in a stop like this. You got the floor, Mike.
Yeah, a lot of newspaper reporters and people that are writing stuff and even people doing YouTube videos, they don't have a background in law whatsoever, policing whatsoever, and they make a lot of mistakes and assumptions. They look at the Fourth Amendment, they hear that word, and all they hear is the word warrant. And you got to have a warrant, you got to have a warrant, you got to have a warrant. And for some things, you need a warrant, but for many other things, you don't need a warrant. And therefore, when police, uniformed police, are responding to jobs like a job of a possible suspect from a previous homicide, and you get a basic description, you go to that location, and you have a little bit of information in your back pocket. So you're kind of looking, okay, what am I looking for? What's the description of the person? How dangerous is this person? Is this person who is wanted for breaking a window with a rock, or is this person wanted for stabbing somebody or shooting somebody? And then you respond to that location. And if you see someone matching that description, you can approach that person and ask questions, and you can get answers from that person. It's called a Terry stop after a 1968 case named Terry versus Ohio, where the United States Supreme Court said police can do this sort of thing if they have some reasonable suspicion of criminal conduct. The police have to act reasonably. And if what they're confronted with gives them some suspicion that this person may be involved in a crime, they could approach that person, grab that person, and demand answers from that person as to who that person is. So when that police officer went to that McDonald's in Altoona, they had what I believe to be reasonable suspicion of criminal conduct.
You know, Mike, I have explained on a previous show, and I when I used to teach this, when I used to teach college, I would teach about the ladder of suspicion.
Mm-hmm.
And the first rung is something called mere suspicion.
That's right.
And mere suspicion allows a police officer to approach and just common law right of inquiry, just speak to the person. You can do that. Anyone can do that. Approach someone. There's no law against that.
That's right.
The second rung of the ladder of suspicion is called reasonable suspicion. And this is where the rubber starts to hit the road.
Right.
Reasonable suspicion means that, the person reasonably may have committed a crime. And this gives a law enforcement officer the power to stop, question, and frisk. And notice I didn't say stop and frisk, because that's incorrectly reported by all the media across this nation. It's called stop, question, and frisk. And the reason question is so important is because the question part may give the officers the third rung of that ladder, which is probable cause. And probable cause is the arrest phase of stop, question, and frisk. So mere suspicion, reasonable suspicion, probable cause. Mere suspicion, you have the right to approach and speak to the person. Reasonable suspicion, stop, question, and frisk. comes into play, and probable cause, put the handcuffs on. The person is under arrest. And I just want to say one thing, Mike, before I get too overly cocky in my knowledge of
Okay.
the law. Reasonable suspicion, they had that in this case upon arrival. They didn't need to develop it. They already had reasonable suspicion. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Bill, the police are always looking for information because information is power. It gives you knowledge about what you're facing. You always want to know what you're facing before you get there. And if there's any sort of 911 information, some sort of informant information that tells you, look, there's a guy, I don't know, but he kind of looks like maybe the person that they're looking for the Brian Thompson shooting in New York. He's in a McDonald's. He's like a young guy with dark eyebrows and he's got a mask on. You go to that location and you see a young man with a mask on, you're going to approach that man and you're going to be on guard from the very first time you get there before you even start asking him questions. Before you make your final approach and you're within arm's distance, you already have a heightened sense of alertness because you have some reasonable suspicion that the person may be involved in a crime. I'm not accusing them of crime, saying they may be involved in a crime. And reasonable suspicion could be based on one articulable fact, which would lead you to believe that this person poses, maybe a suspect. So therefore, you have that right to approach that person and you can actually physically detain that person. That's huge. You can physically stop that person and you can start questioning them because this way, if it's the wrong person, you go about your business very quickly and you start looking for the possible perpetrator somewhere else. You want to clear people if they're not suspects, if they're perfectly innocent people, law-abiding people. Police stop many people and they arrest quite a few because so many people are actually innocent and they have a plausible reason for what they're doing and why they're there in a particular spot. But you have to do that quickly. Stop, question, frisk. Terry versus Ohio case establishes the ability for police to forcibly stop someone and detain them for a short period of time to figure out who they are. They can either be released or if they develop further, as you say, probable cause, the next rung of the ladder, they can then place that person under arrest. So when that police officer saw Luigi Mangione, he had some information in his back pocket already from the dispatcher, and therefore he made his approach. And I thought the approach was appropriate under the circumstances.
Mike, I want to quickly go to a little bit of the New York Times from December 2nd that describes the Altoona, PA police officer responding to the scene. I won't read the whole thing. I'll just go through a little bit of this. When Patrolman Joseph Detweiler answered a call last December claiming that a man who looked like the assassin of health insurance executive was eating breakfast at McDonald's in Altoona, PA, he was dubious. He didn't use his siren as he drove to the restaurant. Well, all good cops know you don't use your siren to go to the damn restaurant. And when you have a suspect that doesn't know you're onto him. I did not think it was going to be the person they thought it was. Patrolman Detweiler of the Altoona Police Department testified Tuesday in State Supreme Court in Manhattan. When a lieutenant texted him that he would buy him a hoagie if he was able to get the gunman, he responded, "Consider it done," according to his testimony. At the McDonald's, Patrolman Detweiler approached the man after he saw him sitting at a table near the bathroom with what appeared to be a steak, egg, and cheese McMuffin and a hash brown in front of him and using a laptop. The officer asked him to pull down his surgical mask. "I knew it was him immediately," Patrolman Detweiler said in the courtroom where pre-trial hearings are being held in the murder case against the man accused in the killing, Luigi Mangione. The officer was the sixth person whom prosecutors with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office called to testify this week as they argue that evidence gathered during Mr. Mangione's arrest should be allowed at a trial. Prosecutors have said that Mr. Mangione had personal writings with him at the time in which he denounced America's for-profit healthcare system and the parasites of the insurance industry. The police also found a journal by Mr. Mangione in his possession that described plans for an assassination, according to prosecutors. Mr. Mangione's lawyers have argued that the police violated his constitutional rights, and so physical evidence taken from his backpack and statements he made at the time should be excluded. That's the whole case, Mike, right there. That's the case, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you've done this. Any police officer who's been on patrol for any length of time is going to have these kind of calls. You might get 5 of them in one night, 4 of them another. in the course of a year, you can respond to 1,000 of these calls, and they're all very similar. You get a basic description of a person maybe perhaps wanted for some or suspected of committing some sort of criminal activity, and you get there and you develop your further level of intelligence and ability at that point. When they approach that person and he asked them to pull down the mask, and he then realized, holy crap, this is the guy. At that point, you're 100% able to make sure that that person, because you know that person is suspected of killing someone in cold blood, you want to secure that person. You may draw your firearm, you may push that person up against the wall, whatever it is. You're going to do a frisk, and there's that backpack right there. Some people want to say, well, you got the search of that person, that frisk of that person, and then the search of that backpack. They're two totally different things. Not in this circumstance, not at all. They're all part of one particular encounter, and you want to make sure the person that you think has killed someone does not have access to a weapon. And if he has that backpack within grabbable, as you say, the lungeable distance, you need to secure that and look for that firearm. You do not want a firearm just sitting there in a backpack, where somebody could grab it. You want to secure that to save yourself and for the rest of the public out there. I think at this point, as we're going slowly through it, I think the police officer acted very appropriately, very reasonable under the circumstances.
This is from Fox News, Mike.
Luigi Mangione is back in court. He's been there all week on these pretrial hearings. It could be a jam-packed day with the DA planning to call more witnesses to testify. Eric Sean's live in downtown Manhattan. He picks up our coverage from there, where he has been all week. What happens today, Eric?
Well, hi, Bill. Good morning to both of you. His eyebrows gave him away. Turns out the McDonald's manager was alerted by her customers that they suspected that the suspected killer was in the McDonald's, and so she called 911. Here's the manager calling 911 on Luigi Mangione.
I have a customer here that some other customers were suspicious of, that he looks like the CEO shooter from New York. Okay. So they're just really upset, and they're like coming to me, and I was like, well, I can't approach him, No, of course not. The only thing you can see is his eyebrows, because I tried to Google it.
The 911 audio was played in court yesterday, 1 year to the day the prosecutors say Mangione gunned down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown Manhattan. Mangione's lawyers have argued that the Altoona police began questioning him before reading him his rights. They believe the statements he made during his arrest at the McDonald's and afterwards, and the items that cops seized from his backpack, should not be used as evidence in his trial. That includes a fake New Jersey driver's license with the name Mark Rosario. Responding officers say Mangione handed it to them while he was being questioned. There was cash in his pockets, $7,000, they say, mostly in $100 bills, with some foreign banknotes from Thailand, India, and Japan. Police body cam videos of Mangione's arrest filled the courtroom as he sat watching the screens intently. At times, Mangione pointed and had animated discussions with his lawyers as the body cam videos played. In those videos, he appears polite, cooperative, and compliant. He has a low, gravelly voice, and he calls the police officers sir. His arms are crossed as he sat in the corner. He did seem dejected, perhaps resigned to his fate. It is ironic, but his cops did slap the cuffs on Luigi Mangione. You can hear the loudspeakers play the Christmas music in the McDonald's, and the song that's being played is "I'll Be Home for Christmas." More Altoona police officers will take the stand today. This hearing expected to go through next week.
So that, Mike, I love that, because that told us basically about the stop. And what was wrong about this stop? And in my mind, as a police officer, nothing, absolutely nothing. Because first of all, for his defense attorneys to put a time frame on this, the officers responding to the scene with this information that they think they have the shooter of the Brian Thompson of the United Healthcare CEO, he's sitting in a McDonald's. They have to do an investigation, don't they? As part of your investigation, what must you do? You must ask questions. Is that an in custody plus interrogation equaling Miranda? All right, you're the lawyer. You explain it.
Yeah, no. We talked about the Terry versus Ohio case. Reasonable suspicion, stop, question, frisk. There was a later case, Berkemer versus McCarty from 1984, and the Supreme Court said, these sort of stops on the street or by the side of the road, you pull somebody over, asking them questions like about were you speeding? How much did you have to drink tonight? Those sort of questions. Those are not the custody kind of situation that the Supreme Court envisioned when they made up the Miranda decision back in 1966. Stop, question, frisk situations, traffic stop situations, all these situations that are very brief, they're out in public, okay? And they're therefore, because of the brevity of these encounters, which as you and I've done, and many times they can last from 30 seconds to 10 minutes, because of the brevity of the situation and the need to get information, because if this person is not the suspect you're looking for, you want to let them go so you could actually get back to looking for the real suspect. The Supreme Court said these kind of situations are not custody situations. They're not custodial situations that trigger the need for giving somebody the Miranda warnings before you question them. It doesn't make any sense that you need to get information from somebody very quickly and to tell them, oh, by the way, you have the right to remain silent. Anything okay will be against the court of law. I know we're on the side of the road. We're in Altoona, Pennsylvania, but we're going to get you a lawyer. That makes no sense whatsoever. So the Supreme Court is very clear on this. These kind of Terry stops do not trigger need for Miranda.
Excellent explanation, Mike. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. If you like real crime, true crime, you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Make lots of comments. Share us with your friends and your family. And if you want to contribute to this channel, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels. We have a YouTube channel membership with 5 different levels. And we appreciate all our fans, friends, and subs who make this channel what it is. And we're growing. Hopefully, we'll hit that 100,000 very shortly. And now a word from our sponsor. FanDuel's got an offer you don't want to miss this NFL season. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style. FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? You must be 21 years or older and present in select states for Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbookfanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE New York or text HOPE New York in New York. This is from the Today Show, and everyone's getting their little piece of this.
This morning, evidence against accused killer Luigi Mangione released to the public for the very first time.
Got a call from the manager there. Customers came to her, said that there's a male in the store that looks like the NYC shooter.
Including that 911 call from a manager of an Altoona, Pennsylvania McDonald's, alerting police to his location.
I have a customer here that some other customers were suspicious of, that he looked like the CEO shooter from New York. Okay. So they're just really upset, and they're like coming to me, and I was like, well, I can't approach him, No, of course not.
The court also releasing these new images of items police say they found on the 27-year-old during the arrest, including thousands of dollars in cash and some foreign currency, apparently from Asia, the laptop he was using when he was approached by police, a small flashlight, a Sharpie marker, and a mask. When Mangione was arrested, prosecutors say he also had a USB drive on a chain around his neck, an apparent to-do list that included buying a survival kit and trash bags, as well as a Greyhound bus ticket to Pittsburgh, arriving the night of the murder.
This does not appear to be a random act of violence.
Thursday's high-stakes hearing comes exactly 1 year since United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was gunned down in Midtown Manhattan. The court releasing these new angles of surveillance video that captured the chilling attack. Mangione's arrest and the search that followed have been the central focus of this week's pretrial proceedings. The defense looking to get evidence, including the alleged murder weapon, thrown out, arguing the search violated their client's constitutional rights. Prosecutors say police followed the law and had the right to search Mangione's backpack without a warrant because of safety concerns.
In cross-examination, the defense has been drilling down on a couple of very specific issues. Among them, the fact that the backpack was never that far away from Luigi Mangione and the McDonald's, and also the number of officers, as many as 14 at one point, and the fact that at no point during the time they're questioning Mangione did they stop customers and employees from going into that part of the McDonald's, Craig.
Stephanie Gosforth there from the courthouse. Steph.
So, Mike, the reason that she said that at no time did they stop, because it's showing that they were conducting their investigation. Mm-hmm. And what was the time? And this will be a crucial thing for the defense. When was he actually placed under arrest? And the Supreme Court in a Terry stop does not define that, does not define how long can you conduct your investigation. Because as you said, if the investigation turns out to be a negative, then you let the person who stopped, questioned, frisked, you let them go. Sure. And you do a piece of paper in the NYPD. It's called a UF 250 stop, question, and frisk form to memorialize that stop on a piece of paper and show that you're just not stopping people for no reason. So that is the big issue here. And Mike, I just want to also say, this makes us laugh because search incidental to lawful arrest. That no warrant is necessary. The wheels of the criminal justice system would grind to a halt if every time cops stopped someone, they had to apply for a search warrant and wait there for 12 hours till the search warrant came back. Just ridiculous. But the media reports it like, hey, they searched them without a warrant, as cops all across this nation do every single day. Your final thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, Bill. The Supreme Court has said in many cases from 1968 forward to the present that police can, if they have some reasonable suspicion of criminal conduct, stop someone, question them, detain them for a short period of time while they do an investigation. They do not have to give them Miranda. These brief stops do not trigger Miranda warnings. And then doing a frisk, you can do a frisk because you may believe that person has a firearm. When they put that person in custody and they looked in that bag, or they looked in that bag earlier, that's perfectly fine because it's in a lungible area. You looked in that bag, you've removed that firearm, you secure that firearm, you don't need a warrant. As you said, it doesn't make any sense to have police officers have to give Miranda and then also have to get a warrant at the same time while you're on the street trying to conduct a criminal investigation. The defense is doing their best. Ms. Agnafilo Friedman, she's doing an excellent job. She's just doing what every single defense attorney has to do. And this is a Hail Mary pass. It probably won't be successful, but she's doing what she's ethically obligated to do the best thing she can for her client. And this is very understandable, but people should not worry that Mangione is going to go free.
No, and in the final analysis, I don't think the judge is going to throw out anything. I absolutely don't think he's throwing out anything. Maybe he'll throw some breadcrumbs at them. Oh, this statement will throw that out. Right. But even the fake license, this is pretty important because it shows intent. It shows consciousness of guilt, as the great Professor Michael Geary says all the time. So, folks, that's our perspective. That's our point of view on this. And I think we're right. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Bill Cannon. On behalf of myself and Professor Mike Geary, thanks for watching the show. We'll see you next time. Have a great day and God bless.
One episode, just ain't enough.